Good evening, everyone. This is Pradeep, Ambassador of Change from GETI, the Global Education and Training Institute of Lucknow. We are the premier training institute for teachers and principals in all of India. And we have many pre-service and in-service programs. And for more information on this, please go to 740-840-1000. Right now, you are on our disruptive education platform. On this platform, which was provided to us by our mentor, Dr. Sunita Gandhi, we have interacted with more than 1,100 educators from India and all over the world. And this evening, we have for you Ms. Milita Haldar. She's the program manager for DEVI Sansthan of Lucknow, Uttar Pradesh. She has 14 years of experience. She has been a senior lecturer with a demonstrated history of working in the education management industry. Throughout the course of her career as a teacher, she has perfected her classroom management and student progress abilities. She is capable and consistent in problem solving and skilled at prioritizing and managing projects with proficiency. She is skilled in sustainable development, research, design, communication, lecturing, and academic writing. She is a strong educational professional with a Master of Arts degree in Geography from the famous Isabella Thurbin College of Lucknow. And she will be speaking to us today on global warming. Let's wake up. So, welcome, ma'am. Good evening. And over to you, ma'am.
So, a very good evening to all of you who are listening to me from India, and good morning to all from the other part of the world. So, I'm very grateful for giving me this opportunity where I can speak upon a very important topic of climate change that has been, that has been going about in the upper circle, to say in the political scenario, as well as at the lower level, that is to say in the community level. So I'm just, trying to help you to understand what actually is global warming, what actually is this problem of global warming is all about. So it will give you an insight about how and what we or the this problem is, and with helping you to understand this problem of global warming, I'll give you some basic insights how every individual, you and I, can play a very, very important role in solving this problem of global warming. Because global warming is an issue that has affected or that can affect each and every individual who is living in this whole world. So if you can see this first picture that comes up in your screen, so you can see the first picture tells you or shows you a picture of a cyclone that has so much adversely affected India in the very recent parts. Then you have another picture of a forest fire, then another picture of a glacier melting down, and another picture of drought. Now these all are the interconnected pictures where global warming is playing a very, very decisive role. That's what we should think about, because our survival is dependent upon this global warming, or to say the environmental issues that that is round about us, that is so much, very much adversely affecting us. Think about a scenario where everything around you is burning up, everything around you is under the sea, or everything around you is underwater when when a cyclone, a typhoon, or a hurricane hits any place, or everything around you is dry and parched. So we should, or we have to think why the scenario is this. We have to think, because we, each and every individual who is this part of the society or the part of this whole world, has to take single small steps, because with every step that each and every individual is taking up, that will help into the solving of the problem of this environmental issues that we have presently faced, or that we are presently facing. Because I do not believe in political parties, or big earth summits, those sit in big AC rooms and chalk out with plans and purposes. And so these are the things that they are doing at a very big level, so they are doing their part. I That's a a dreamland that they want to create. But I want each and every individual who is listening to me right now to think what we need to do, or to act what we can do, because every individual can do something or the other. So thereby we should think and analyze things. So I hope you are able to see my second slide, where we are talking about global warming. So, global warming is an issue that is so, pertinent, and has been a cause of issue from way long back. Now is the time that we have to think, and we have to wake up. Each and every individual needs to wake up. So, because when, if I'm talking about a problem, if I'm telling you about a problem, you must may be knowing the fact of the global warming. You may have heard about global warming, but I don't know how many of you actually know the problem of global warming, or what actually the problem of global warming is all about. So, because the diseases, or whenever we talk about or hear about disease, so that's a problem is there. So the nature of disease, what the nature of disease is, unless and until we understand the nature of the disease, then only we can solve the problem of this issue. So that's what is very important, and that's what I want you to understand, that what is the actual problem of global warming, or what actually is the problem that is global warming. Now, when we are talking about global warming, what we have to talk about is greenhouse effect, because that's to say, if we talk about any kind of disease, when we are talking about any kind of disease, so there has to be a reason behind why the disease has hampered, or why the disease has affected a particular person. So global warming is a disease, and greenhouse effect is the cause of global warming, or that has resulted into global warming. So to understand this issue of greenhouse effect, it's very easy for you to understand that we have sun, from which visible light comes and reaches the earth. And this visible light that is coming and reaching the earth is generally in the form of infrared radiations and ultraviolet radiations that reach the earth. Now when they are reaching the earth, they are generally short, in very short wavelength, because the wavelength is very short. So they are reaching the earth, the surface of the earth. And when they reach the surface of the earth, you can see very well from this diagram that is in front of you, to see that when it is reaching the surface of the earth, that is heating the earth, and it heats up the earth. And the second part, what happens is, this sunlight, it is just like
Ma'am,
entering.
ma'am, excuse
Yeah.
me. Excuse me.
Yes.
Your PPT is not moving. Kindly go to your second
Okay.
slide. Thank you.
Okay. So I think there is some issue. So let me move ahead with
Yeah,
this.
okay. Yeah, it's going there. Thank you. It's there.
Okay. Okay.
Carry on,
Okay.
ma'am.
Okay. So sorry, I won't be able to show you this animation or so. So generally, if you want to understand this greenhouse effect, so it's just like the thing that the sun rays is coming inside and heating the surface of the earth. Now it comes in the form of shortwave radiations, and when it goes back, when because it is coming up on the or hitting the surface of the earth and going back towards the atmosphere once again and going back to the space. So that's the full purpose or the full process of it. So when it is coming in the form of shortwave radiations. So when it is moving back in the form of long wave radiations. So when it is moving back, it is in the form of long wave radiations. But when it is going back, some of this amount of heat, or to say sunlight, that is going back is absorbed by these greenhouse gases. These greenhouse gases absorb this some amount of heat, or to say some amount of sunlight that is going back. This heat that is being absorbed by these greenhouse gases, that makes the earth warm enough for the people to survive. So if I talk about this, I hope you have understood this. So if you have gone through it, now let's move ahead to the next new slide. That is to say, the slide where we'll be talking about the greenhouse effect, or what actually the greenhouse effect is. So now, if we are talking about greenhouse effect, I have told you that the sunlight or the heat that is being radiated from the surface of the earth is being trapped by these greenhouse gases. These greenhouse gases are carbon dioxide, methane, and water. The most three
Ma'am,
prominent.
your,
Yes.
your next slide is not there.
Okay. So I'll be going on with this. Actually, the thing is, there is some issue with
Okay,
this.
carry on, ma'am. Carry on, please.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the main problem in this is that these greenhouse gases, when they are going back to the surface of the earth, or going away from the surface of the earth, they are trapped by these three gases, that is carbon dioxide, methane, and water. So they all the amount that is being radiated back is not trapped by these greenhouse gases. Some amount is only trapped by. So that creates the condition in the surface of the earth that makes it habitable. So due to which, and this but full process is known as greenhouse effect. The sunlight is coming, heat hitting the surface of the earth, going back, some amount is being trapped down through these greenhouse gases. So they create this, condition where it is warm enough. And if we eliminate greenhouse gases, that is to say carbon dioxide, methane, and water from the atmosphere of the earth, so if we eliminate these greenhouse gases, the temperature of the earth would be 30 degrees Celsius, minus 30 degrees Celsius. So imagine looking out of your window and finding snow everywhere. And to say, without greenhouse gases, the human habitation in this whole earth would have not been possible. So that's the basic and the main reason due to which these greenhouse gases are very, very important or very, very helpful. Now, if we are saying that in the first half, when I told you about global warming, I told you the main cause of global warming is that there is such a huge problem of greenhouse gases, or the greenhouse gases are the cause of global warming. And on the second hand, I'm telling you that without the greenhouse gases, human habitation would have not been possible, because the temperature of the earth would have been much below or minus 30 degrees centigrade. That is much below the normal condition or the normal atmospheric conditions. So it would have not been possible. So why there is so much hue and cry when we are stating or when we are telling you that that without the greenhouse gases, our habitation in this world would have not been possible. So why we are so much talking about controlling greenhouse gases? Why we are talking about global warming? To make much more simpler for you to understand why we are talking about, that is to say, the problem of enhanced greenhouse effect. It is simply the enhanced greenhouse effect that's the issue, and not the greenhouse gases that, or the greenhouse effect is not the issue, but enhanced greenhouse effect is the issue. Now, to make it more easier for you to understand why enhanced greenhouse effect is an issue, we all use quilts in winters, right? So we all use quilts in winters, and whenever we are using quilt in winters, it makes us feel comfortable. So that's a quilt that you are using is a greenhouse gas. It's a person, or to say an example of a greenhouse gases, because a quilt acts just like your greenhouse gases, because a quilt that you are using in winters is not producing heat, but what it is doing is it is trapping the heat of your body. That is, that generally when you sleep in the summers, it is being radiated back when you sleep. So that heat is being trapped by this quilt. So that makes you feel so comfortable, when you're sleeping inside your quilt in the winters. So that's the condition of greenhouse effect. Now, why or how it becomes a problem? Suppose you're sleeping with your quilt and your friend comes and puts one quilt over you and another one over you, another one over you, another one over you. And after some time, you will, just burst out of that, the piles of quilt, saying it is really very exhaustive out here. So that's what is all about. Because greenhouse effect is not the issue. But what we are doing is continuous piling up of these greenhouse gases is creating a problem where we are not able to, that is creating a problem where this temperature of the earth is gradually rising. That's what happens, that when I put one quilt upon one more quilt and one more quilt, gradually you will feel suffocating because of the fact that your body will get heat up. So that's the same nature that happens in your greenhouse effect. So that's why we have to talk about, or we have to think about greenhouse problem or greenhouse gases, enhanced greenhouse gases. And then we can talk, and then we should always think about global warming. That's a very important issue that we have to think and really act upon, because without this, we cannot think about human survival. So if you have understood the problem of the greenhouse gases, so this simple diagram that is in front of you shows you the the emission that comes out from the different sector of economic sectors that we have all throughout the world. So this pie chart gives you a brief outlook of how much amount of greenhouse gases are basically being emitted from different sectors of the economic sectors. Now, out here, we are not talking about methane, we are not talking about water vapor, we are talking about only carbon dioxide, because carbon dioxide is the major greenhouse gases that whose amount is gradually increasing due to the various human activities. Methane and your to say water vapor, it is not being so much affected by any human activity, but the level of carbon dioxide is basically and mainly increasing. In your second, bar graph, I have tried to define to you the amount of carbon dioxide that is coming out from the fossil fuel burning. Now again, another major source of carbon dioxide, because the fossil fuels that we are generally burning in when we are using petrol, diesel, or when we are in the manufacturing industries, so many industries or constructions of roads, so many economic activities. Whenever we are doing this fossil fuel, or to say your petroleum, your coal, all that is coming out, and that is affecting our environment so much adversely. This carbon dioxide, because in our environment, to say everything that is there, if there is some enhancement happens, there is always a sink of it. If you see in this bar graph, I've tried to define to you that the some amount of carbon dioxide that is liberated from the surface of the earth is being absorbed in the land in the form of, it gets absorbed in the form of coal and as well as in the sea it is being absorbed. So if you have been near to a sea, you must have collected seashells. So when you are collecting seashells, so it is calcium, and it is coming out from carbon, or carbon that is getting synced in or being absorbed by the huge sea area that we have. So that is being absorbed and going through a chemical process. It is being utilized by these snails and such other oysters and so many other sea animals, and converting it for their sea or their shells. So that's a process through which this carbon dioxide is being absorbed by the nature. But still the amount of carbon dioxide is much more higher than what is being absorbed. If you can see this graph, you can very well understand that the amount is so much being absorbed, and so much adversely being though it is being absorbed, but still the amount of carbon dioxide is so much pertinent in this environment. So what we proceed ahead in the next slide is that when we are talking about carbon dioxide, you have to always understand that I have already discussed with you that what is actually a greenhouse effect is all about, and I have made you understand through how the process of enhanced process of greenhouse gases can result into the increase in the temperature of the earth. As if you can take the example of your quilt that I gave to you. So in that same very way, through this particular diagram, or to say this no this chart, or to say this diagram, I am trying to elaborate to you that with the increasing amount of carbon dioxide, if you see that the amount of the temperature of the earth is also gradually increasing. So that's the diagram through which you can very well understand that the increasing amount of carbon dioxide is resulting into the increasing amount of temperature of the earth. So that's, to say, very much directly proportionate to each other. If we increase the amount of carbon dioxide, we will increase the amount of the temperature, or increase the temperature of the earth will go on increasing gradually, and that will have a very adverse effect. Now, when we talk about adverse effects, it is very simple for us to, if we say, if we talk about increase, because global warming is the increase in the temperature of the earth, and it is due to greenhouse effect, and the main reason is the carbon dioxide that is going on increasing day by day. So now when we are talking about this, so we have to understand that the effect of this or the increase in the temperature of the earth is very wide. It has been affecting the various spheres of the earth. It has been affecting the wildlife, because if we talk about forest fire or anything, it will affect the wildlife. And the melting of the glaciers, because the temperature of the earth is gradually rising. I showed you in your first, first slide, I showed you of a picture of a glacier that is melting and falling into the sea. That will result into the rise in the sea level. So rise in the sea level will adversely affect the areas that are lying near the seashore, and it will result into the submergence of those particular areas. Imagining your your Bollywood going down the sea because of the sea rise in the sea level, because Bombay is near this, Mumbai is near the seashore, and it is very much under threat if the rate through upon the rate in which the sea level is rising, if it continues for long, if it continues at the same very rate, the sea level will submerge many of the coastal areas of India, including Sri Lanka, Bangladesh. They all will be under sea. Severe heat waves. And for this, you can very well take the example of me, wiping my, forehead, and because of this being the month of October, still I'm wiping my forehead of my sweat because of the increase in the temperature of the earth. Because October was to be or had to be a very pleasant, weather condition should have been there. So but now, because of this changing pattern of our weather system or the climatic system, because of global warming and another, and some many other climatic reasons, the temperature of even October is so much high that we don't feel like we are entering into winters, or winter is about to come. It's just like the month of March or so. So that's the difference, or that is creating this condition. And the weather will be so much erratic, and because there will be wildfires, there will be hurricanes, typhoon, tornadoes, thunderstorms, because typhoons and tornadoes, hurricanes, and these all cyclones, generally they come from the sea. And if we talk about sea, the temperature of the water or sea water is gradually rising, so that results into much, or provides more strength to these hurricanes or cyclones that are being formed in these big seas, or to say these oceans that we have round about us, even India. Because these hurricanes or cyclones are a normal conditions that they had to happen, they generally happen. So it's a normal phenomena of the nature of the earth. But the problem is that because the surface of the water surface is gradually heating up, the intensity of these hurricanes, typhoons, and cyclones are very much increasing up. So thereby the effect of it has been very much visible in the recent past also, and we have faced it in Gujarat, and West Bengal, and so many other Odisha, and so many other places in the very recent past. So that's creating a great change in the pattern of this the environmental pattern that we have. And more frequent wildfires, or to the forest fire. Now and then you can hear in the news that forest fire is happening in California, forest fire is happening in Mexico. So these are the areas, because actually what happens in the forest fire, the water level or the ground water level is gradually going down, due to which the surface of the earth is getting drier and drier day by day. So when these huge amount of leaves, another factor is for the forest fires, it is man-made. Man, due to certain of the activities, they cause this forest fire. But the natural activity that through which it is that we are clearing the forest, and the water level is gradually going down. The groundwater is gradually going down. So thereby surface of the earth is getting arid and then drying up. So when this huge amount of leaves that fall on the surface of the earth after this leaf fall, so because the deforestation is happening, the velocity of the wind is very very high. So because they can move freely in this big jungles, because there are no trees as obstacles or less of trees of obstacles, so they carry this huge amount of leaves with them, and they rubble together and create a spark, and that spark creates this forest fire. So that's what is happening right now. So we have to think, we have to channelize our ideas and our ways to, because it is going to affect us. Drought and loss of soil can impact agricultural communities. It's a very well known fact that the if the soil loses its water content, or the water groundwater level goes down, and if it goes down, even if you pour huge amount of water from the surface of the earth, or from above, it won't yield that same result as what it when the soil is being soaked in, or it is being moistened by the ground surface or the groundwater. So that's very important. And if we if we continue affecting, or if we continue changing this whole scenario of our ecosystem, so that will in somehow or the other way affect the availability of these natural resources for our future generations. So now, right now, I know many of you must have been following the newspaper and going about and hearing that there is scarcity of electricity, or the electricity supply is being shortened, is very shortened now, because of the non availability or low availability of coal in our reserves. So that's fun factor. That's because coal is a non-renewable resource of our environment, or to say our nature. So it's there with us, but it is not there with us for eternity. So thereby it becomes a huge problem. So we need to focus upon that, and we need to channelize the things how we can go about it. And with the time being, we need to think how to go about it. But the global warming is also affecting. I have discussed with you about the various factors, like cyclones, and these all factors are also affecting our energy shortage. Why? Because due to heavy floods in China and some, and in many of the areas, these had very much adversely affected these coal mining areas. They were all flooded down or filled with water. So that affected the availability of water, or to say availability of coals. And apart from that fact, it also affected the availability of oil in Texas and in America. So in this way, global warming is somehow or the other way affecting our day-to-day life. Everything in some way or the other is getting affected by global warming. So when we are talking about global warming, we have to think, and we have to analyze the things, and we need to understand that how we should go about it, or how we have to tackle the problem of global warming. So I don't believe, and I am telling you, we don't have to plan big things. We have to do very nominal things, each and every individual. If we can do some very nominal things with with our changing how we do things, or changing some way or the other things that we generally practice in our day-to-day life. Suppose many of us are using hair dressers or hair dryers for ourselves when we are drying our hair. So let's try to avoid these kinds of gadgets, because your hair can dry up on its own. So when you are not using that amount of energy, so because you're not using that amount of energy in your hair dryers, so that amount of energy can be used in some way or the other, in some way or the other, and that will reduce the amount of coal, being used or being used to generate this amount of energy for your hair dryer. You do, I'm giving you an example. It's very small, very insignificant. It may feel like, if I use my hair dryer, so that's not a big issue. How much amount of coal it will it consume? But think about it. You as an individual, you're not using this particular hair dryer for the whole of the week, for the whole of the month, for the whole of the year. Then think the accumulation of the coal that you are conserving the environment, and that is in the some way or the other having an effect upon the liberation of the carbon dioxide on the surface of the earth, or to the surface, from the surface of the earth. So that's an important issue, and that's an important factor. Using new energy star, the items that we have, planting, each and every one of us can't plant a tree, because living in urban areas, we don't have accessibility of open areas or open wide areas, don't have them. I am not asking each one of you to go and plant a tree. Just have 2 or 3 pots of green plants, that just like I have beside me. Have that kind of plants within your bowl, within your house, outside your house, and think that whatever amount of carbon dioxide that is coming out from my house, these plant is enough to absorb that amount of carbon dioxide from my house. So it will always have an effect. Just like if we use a phrase in Hindi, "boon boon se bharta sagar," in that same very way, each and every individual does not have to do big things, but each and every individual, if we do small things for the environment. I have one of my colleague. I would like to name him is Mr. Saf. He travels, every day to his work on a bicycle. So he's traveling on a bicycle. So he is contributing to the nature or to the environment. He's contributing in conservation of the environment. Now, here I'm not asking each one of us to go by bicycle, but we can always do carpooling, pooling with our friends. We can always use public transport that we have, that is metro and so many other things. We have to figure it out. And we need to think of, don't change each and everything round about you. Change just one habit, two habit, of yours today. Think about it. Change only one or two habit of your today, and gradually you will realize that you are changing a lot amount of habits of yours, and that is getting, or that is affecting your environment in a very better way. So that's what we need to think. That's what we need to act, and that's what this call is all about. Because unless we think, or unless we take one step ahead, we can't conserve our earth. Our earth is the only place where we can breathe. So, thereby, let's come up together, think together, and act together. That then only we can solve this problem of environmental issues or climatic change. Thank you, and thank you for listening to my topic. And I hope in some way or the other way, I have put in some input to you, and I hope you will try to follow it.
Thank you, ma'am, for that very practical talk and the various methods of us providing in a little way towards environmental betterment. Good evening, everybody. I request you further to watch our detox, our disruptive literacy movement by Global Dream, which is an initiative by Dr. Sunita Gandhi since 2014. This is to ensure that everyone's participation in helping India achieve total literacy by a people's movement. So you've heard of this, like each one teach one. Well, those of us who can teach more than one, we should be teaching more than one to ensure foundational literacy and numeracy. On this, we have several talks a day. And for more information, please go to 740-840-1000 to find out about our talks and the ones that you would like to listen to. So good evening, everybody. Goodbye. Thank you, ma'am. And see you again tomorrow. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.